What's going on, boys? It is day number 20 of reading through the book of Isaiah. Today we're going to be looking at a very short passage about another prophecy that's actually going to combine the past two chapters that we've covered, a prophecy against Egypt and Cush. Now, I just want to go ahead and say this chapter is only 6 verses, so it's really interesting to see how these prophecies that we've heard about for the past 2 days against these nations, how they're really going to come together and really we're going to see this effect that's going to take place in these nations that God is speaking through Isaiah with. Now, this, like I said, this chapter is only 6 verses, so I have two sections that I highlighted that I want to cover for today. First off, I want to take a look at verse 2, where it is said, "At that time the Lord spoke through Isaiah, son of Amoz. He said to him, 'Take off the sackcloth from your body and the sandals from your feet.' And he did so, going around stripped and barefoot." So immediately what this kind of made me think of was, God is speaking through Isaiah, and Isaiah is telling these people, hey, if you want to follow God and you want to embrace his love, you have to remove everything that was once part of your old self. And sometimes that means you have to strip yourself. Now, I do believe that the reason why God asks us to strip away from our old clothes and our old habits isn't because he wants to embarrass us, but it's more of a, hey, you live in this really, double life or terrible life. If you want to be free and you want to embrace this full freedom and love that I have, you can't do it by just sticking with your old habits and old ways, because what was once on you, you can't claim it. You have to remove it and put on the new. Remove the old, put on the new. Think of the armor of God, for example, in the New Testament. You have to put on the armor of God. The armor of God isn't something that you already have pre-following him, if that makes sense. It's something that you have to accept, something you have to really take in from God. And sometimes it means you have to, cut off certain things that were part of your old self. Now, it's not physically like cutting off your arm or anything. It's like, cutting off certain connections or relationships or routines. And it actually says, that the king of Assyria, was actually, this is who Isaiah was telling it to, and he said he was going to lead some of the captives from Egypt and Cush to exiles, and ultimately this would be the sign to the people that who they thought they were trusting before, they can't trust him anymore, because they basically got lied to, and they basically got fooled and tricked into following them a lot of times for money. And you think about it, to this day and age, you think about people who say that they know what's right, they know how the world works, and they know how things turn out, but they don't have a really defining reason for it. And a lot of times the reason why people will say this to kind of fake you out with this stuff isn't because they want to not help you. It's because, again, they're there for the money, and a lot of it for the attention. Now, I hope to God that none of us would ever turn out like that, and we would actually be willing to help somebody because out of love and joy, and not just for the fame or the money. But this really built trust that we have with people. You have to be careful with who you're trusting and who you're willing to put your faith in, and who you're really wanting to include in your life, and who you want to share your journey with, because it may be going great one day, and then the next day it's just downhill, and you don't know what that's going to look like. So just be very careful who you are surrounding yourself with and who you want to include in your life. Last thing I want to look at is verse 5 through 6, where it is said, "Those who trusted in Cush and boasted in Egypt will be dismayed and put to shame. In that day, the people who live on this coast will say, 'See what has happened to those we relied on, those we fled to for help and deliverance from the king of Assyria. How then can we escape?'" So, people will, like I said, they will see the truth and they will change because of it, because people want to, but they always want to get better. They always want to have more. They always want to have, this ability to feel embraced and powerful. But when they find out that their source or their teacher or their instructor was wrong and everything they got taught was false, they're going to really question, be like, man, like, what am I doing with my life? Like, where am I supposed to go? And I'm sure all of us have been there in that point where there may have been someone that you watched online, or maybe a family member, or maybe a close friend that you thought you could trust, and all of a sudden they turn their back on you, and you're left in complete confusion. Like, what do I do with my life now? Like, I don't know what to do. And that's where God's like, hey, like, you've seen what has happened here. You've seen that these people that you thought you could trust are wrong, and now they've been put to shame. It's like, now you really need to understand that my ways are right. It's not because I want to be a dictator to you. It's because I want to show you what is right. Now, this process of me, redeeming you and helping you isn't going to be easy. It's gonna be difficult, but it can happen. And that's where a lot of people tend to just be like, oh, I don't want to do that. Then it's going to be hard. Like, I have to do hard stuff first. Like, no, I don't want to do that. The path of life is different for all of us, because we all grow up in different households and different parts of the world, different times of the world. But one thing is always in common. We all want to get out there and we want to live our best life. We want to change the world. We want to make the world a better place. And while that is a good thing, I think what's most important is it's not about being best friends with everybody or having as many followers as you can on social media. It's about being willing to be loving and caring for the ones around you. And if that's a few people, that's fine. You don't have to be the most popular person on the planet. You don't have to be a famous athlete that everybody looks up to. Now, I think it's great that people look up to you, but I think what's also important is that you are, showing them like, hey, like, I am willing to help you and show you the ways. It's like, but I want you to create your own path. I want you to follow what your heart desires, what God is telling you to go to. God has a plan for all of us. And while that plan is sometimes confusing and sometimes doesn't make sense, in the end, when we look back, it went pretty well, if you ask me. And I hope that this finds you well through whatever you're going through today. It's a Monday for me, and I'm sure a lot of us, dread Mondays as much as I do, especially during the school year when you have to get up and you got a class or you have to go to work. You're like, man, this sucks. Like, just remember that, you get to work. You could be sitting on the side of the road with nothing, but you have something. And it's grateful that God has given you that. And sometimes when you ask for something different, it may take time. And that's where you have to really just, put it on cruise and be like, all right, like, we're going to have to stick with this for a little while. And it'll work out for you. I really hope it does. And just, again, remember to put your trust in people who actually are caring for you and are going to be there for you in your ups and downs, not just people who are going to be there for you just because you have more fame or more money or you have, more jokes or whatever it is. But that is today's word. I hope that you guys have a great Monday and a great remainder of your week. Peace out, boys. See you soon.